Hello world, and welcome to another part of the tutorial. Actually, this is a new tutorial series, and in this video we actually try to learn Blender in just 1 hour. So first of all, what is Blender? So Blender is a 3D graphic suite that we can use for creating models. We can also use it for movies. We can use it for VFX. We can use it for almost anything 3D CG, and CG is just for computer graphics. So Blender has a lot of features, and in this tutorial actually we won't be diving into all of the features of Blender. So to get Blender, just visit blender.org, and you can download the latest version. In this tutorial we'll be using version 4.1. If you want to follow along and get everything to work perfectly, you can also use Blender 4.1, or you can download the latest version of Blender. So now, if you've opened Blender if you are opening Blender for the first time, because I assume you've downloaded it and you've installed it, it's completely easy to install, and I don't need to explain all those process. So when you're opening Blender for the first time, you are going to saw a screen that is very similar to this. This image might be different from yours, as Blender release new version. This image or splash image changes. So we have this quick setup that that is going to show when you are opening Blender for the first time. And under language, you can choose your language of choice if you don't want to use English, which is the default language. Under the shortcut, just leave it as Blender. If you are just starting out, uh, the other shortcut is for, yeah, I think for industry compatible, for those that are coming from other 3D software, or for those that are using that want to use older version of Blender. Under select with, just leave it at left click. That's for selecting object. You want to ensure that we are using left click. Some may prefer right click, which might seem odd at first, but actually that was the default uh Blender that was the default button that Blender used for clicking before it later changed it to left clicking. The space bar, you can change it to search instead of play, um, because you are going to be needing some features in the search bar, and we want to access it as quick as possible. So you can change it from play to search. Just click on display, you get a drop down menu and click on search. Another thing, you can leave it at Blender dark, and if it's too dark, you can just leave it as Blender light. So, and you just click on this save new setting. You might not get all this save new setting or load 3.3 setting. This is it if you already have some older version of Blender and you downloaded a new version. So that's for the setup. And now, after clicking anywhere or on the splash outside the splash screen, you are going to be you are going to be displayed this, and this is what is generally called the Blender graphical user interface, the GUI. And so, first of all, before we explain what it actually meant and so on like that, um, let us start with explaining what 3D is. If you work with 2D computer images, you are probably familiar with how computer graphics work in 2D, but in 3D is a slightly different approach to almost everything. Well, in 2D you can move objects in 2 dimension, but in 3D there is an extra dimension, which is the dimension. So might also be used to the Z dimension in like maybe layers. So, but that's not exactly 3D. So now, what are the axes that we have in Blender? In Blender we have 3 axes. We have the x-axis, we have the y-axis, and we have the z-axis. And so uh, okay, before we get started, I quickly want to explain something. If you are using a laptop, if you are not using a desktop, there are some features that won't work unless you go under the edit button over here, and you are going to click on preferences, and under input over here, because you are going to met with this interface where you can change some settings. But under this input, you are going to be click on this emulate numpad. So you want to ensure that this is enabled, um and that's because um there are some shortcuts that uses the normal keyboard, that's the desktop keyboard numpad, but we don't have a numpad in laptops, so we want to enable that. And now these if you are using your Blender and you click on one where you are filling from here to here, that goes on infinitely, that's our x-axis. This yellow line, that's what indicates the x-axis. And if you click on 3, you also saw this 2D view that shows the y-axis. This green line, that's our y-axis. And this blue line that goes from up to down, that's our z-axis. If you are viewing it from a 3D, you are viewing it like this, you can already see that we have the y-axis going from front to back, and we have the y-axis and the x-axis going from left to right, and the z-axis going from the top to bottom. And to move around in 3D, this is what we call the 3D viewport in Blender, and I'm actually going to explain this later on. But to move around and rotate around like this in 3D viewport, you can hold down the middle mouse button and just drag, and now you can move around in the 3D viewport. Almost everything you are going to do with a 3D object or 3D model, you are going to be doing it in the 3D viewport. And that's it for moving around in the 3D viewport. And also, if you want to zoom in or zoom out in the 3D viewport, you can simply use the mouse scroll wheel to scroll up and down, and you're going to zoom in or zoom out. Or alternatively, you can use control and middle mouse drag. You are going to zoom in and zoom out. I actually use this method because something is a little bit wrong with my middle mouse scroll. So also, apart from zooming in and zooming out of the 3D viewport, let's say we want to pan around. By pan around, I mean we want to move around the three different pots, because this is where we are centering on. You want to center on something else. So to do that, you are going to use shift, and you're going to use middle mouse, and you're going to drag. And by that, we are going to pan the three different pots, or just move around the three different pots. And now if you are like, how do I center the fill um back to the origin? Because this, where the green line and red line met over here, that's our origin point. So how do I center the fill back to origin point? And to do that, we can easily make use of our space bar to search. Okay. Okay, I'm actually using some settings over here, so that my spacebar also gives me the search functionality. And so when I hit the spacebar, you can search for center, and you can see this center field to cursor, and you're going to click that, and now our field is center. You might ask, uh how does the field port note that is going to center itself to the origin? And that's because the viewport doesn't center itself to the origin. Actually, I'm going to call it the fill and not the viewport right now, because the fill is actually where we are viewing from. And and we can call everything in our view, we can call it the viewport. So how does it know where to center zone? And that's because it's actually not centering on the center. What it's using is using the location of the 3D cursor, and the 3D cursor is in the center also. And you might ask, how can we change the location of the 3D cursor? But for now, we are not going to dive deep into the 3D cursor concept. Okay, so now in our 3D report, we have this box model by default. And you might be asking, how can we change this box model, this simple cube model? And to delete any model that you have in your 3D report, you can use the S key or the delete key. So if you click on X, you get this prompt that say, do you want to delete it? You can just click on delete, and we no longer have our cube. And now you might be thinking, if I made a mistake, maybe we don't want to delete the cube, and we want to undo our last operation. It's very the same. It's very the same in most softwares, but in Blender, to do that, you are going to use Control Shift Z. Oh yeah, sorry. You are going to use Control Z, and if you want to redo um, the last operation, if you don't want to undo, which is actually deleting the cube, if you realize that we don't want to undo this operation, we want to redo it again, and you can use Control Shift Z to um, redo. So don't forget, we use Ctrl Z for undo and Ctrl Shift Z to redo. And now we've deleted the cube, We can bring it back with Ctrl Z, but let's leave it as deleted. And now you might be asking, how can we add other models to our viewport? But I'm going to actually explain what is very, very important in your 3D journey. In 3D in general, we have what we call primitives, and primitives are basic shapes that you can model on. For example, we have 3D sphere, which is a primitive. We have a torus, which is a primitive, and there are other primitives like that. Primitives are just a starting point. They are not going to be your model because you actually want to model something. For example, let's say a bottle, uh, and so how do we have the do we add these primitives to our 3D viewport? And we do that with Shift A, and you can go under this mesh, uh, and we have these sub menus, and we can choose any primitives from. You have the plane, the cube, circle, UV sphere, icosphere, cylinder, cone, torus. We have a grid, and we have monkey. And before we explain how we move object around in 3D, let's just add let's add a torus. A torus is like this donut shape, and now we can already saw well that this model is not looking very smooth. And why is that? Well, that's because we are using the shading that we are using to fill our model in our object in 3D viewport is actually flat shading, and we can change it to smooth shading if you don't want uh all this flat look. And we do that by right clicking. Okay, don't forget we select an object in 3D viewport by left clicking, and we already saw that now it has some yellow outline. When we right click and click on shade smooth, we are going to have this smooth shading. And if you use the shade smooth, and don't forget this is still our normal geometry. Okay, this is still our normal model. Let's leave it at that. But if you don't want all this flat look, that's when we can change it to shade smooth. But internally our model is still flat and it's like that. But what we are using to shade our model in the 3D viewport is the shade smooth. If you use the shade smooth and it's giving you some weird behavior, you can just right click and choose shade smooth by angle instead. You can already saw that when we choose this shade smooth by angle, not all those flat look are gone. But I prefer to use this way instead of just going to shade smooth. Now let's talk about how we transform objects in 3D viewport. One of the things I want you to note first is that we have different modes in Blender, and if you are transforming, let's say, an object in viewport in this object mode, sorry, and you went into edit mode to transform an object, actually what you are transforming are different, because in the edit mode we are transforming the object internally. You are not transforming the real object. So but in object mode, when you are transforming an object, we are transforming that exact object. So that means we are changing its position, its rotation, or its scaling. That's what is regarded as transform in both the 2D world of computer graphics and the 3D world of computer graphics. And now let's talk about how we move objects in the 3D viewport. To move an object, first of all, these all these tools that show to the left of our 3D viewport, this is known as the toolbar, and you can toggle it. You can change it whether you want it to be visible or not by hitting the T key. Visible, not visible, visible, not visible. And you can also resize it. If you click on this rightmost border, the column, your cursor changes to this arrow, and if you left click and hold and you drag, first of all we are going to saw this that our toolbars are now our tools are now in uh two yeah our tools are now in two column. But if you keep on holding and drag, you can already see that our tools now expand to show their name. And so you can leave it as it is if you like it, or you can just change it back to its default view. And so to make things easier, let's just leave it at this. And so to move an object in 3D or 2D in general, we can also call it to translate that object. And so we use this move tool. When you click on the move tool, we saw this what we call gizmos in the 3D viewport. And so what this gizmo does is that it allows us to perform operation visually in the 3D viewport. And now you can already saw that we have this arrow, which is the Z axis, which is pointing around to the Z axis, and it's also the same color with our Z axis. Don't forget, our Z axis is this little blue line, and we have our Y axis and our X axis. Don't forget that. And so if you want to move the object along the Y and Z axis, you can click on this arrow and just drag, and now we can move our object along the Z axis. And the same thing with the X axis, and the same thing with the Y axis. You can just move and drag around. And so that's how we move an object in 3D viewport. And don't forget, we are moving the whole object. And so right now we have this object, but its main position is also saved, which means we can actually tell Blender to reset its position to where it initially was. But if you want to make the main position to be this, the object position to be this, you are going to use the shortcut key of Control A, and now we can choose the location. But to explain, let's say I want to reset the location right now of uh, this torus. I will hit on Alt G, and now we saw that the position got our object got placed back in the main origin. And let's say we've transformed it, we've moved it around the 3D viewport like this, and we hit on Control A and we apply the location, so that the location is now set to this. And we notice that when you hit on Alt G, our object does not change at all. If you are wondering why our gizmos is still here over here, that's because of the object origin that I will talk about very soon. But that's for later topics. And now we've talked about how to move an object. But before we move on, you might notice these yellow square, these green squares, red squares, and these blue squares. Well, that's because if you look at where they are, you already saw that this is in the middle of the z-axis and the x-axis, and that's because when we click on this and we use it to move around, it's going to move on. It's going to move in just those axes, and that means it's going to exclude the y-axis. And you can even use uh, the visual hint that Blender already give us, that this little greenish squares means that it is not going to move in the y-axis. And if we move to the other side, we already saw that we have the z-axis and the y-axis, and the icon is now red, which means it's not going to move in the x-axis. So whatever the color the icon is now, you can just think about that. That icon, the axis, our object is not going to move in that axis. So when I click on this, the object no longer moves in the x-axis. It's just moving in the z and the y-axis. And now, for the last one, we have this. We have this. We have our x-axis and we have our y-axis, and we have this blue icon. Don't forget the blue. The blue is for the z-axis, which means our object is not going to move in the z-axis. And so when I click and drag, our total is locked to the x and y-axis only. And so that's it for moving an object in the 3D viewport. And we can already saw this um, white circular in the middle of our object, and this is just for the free form of moving. So I can just click on this white square and white circle and just move around, and the object is not locked to any axis. I just move around freely, and our object has been transformed. And that's it for the move tool in Blender. And we also have the rotate tool. And don't forget, the rotate tool actually works a little bit differently than the 2D, but it's basically the same. One of the best ways that make it very easy to grasp how an object rotates in 3D is to visually think of a line going past through the axis that you are transforming in, and now think of another circle going around that line. So that's where the object is going to rotate to. What I mean by this is, for example, in this y-axis, if you want to rotate an object, just think of a line that goes from here to here like this, and the object is going to rotate along the line like this. I haven't explained rotation, how to rotate an object yet, but this is just for to understand how rotating works in 3D. The same thing for the z-axis, up and down. Just think of an arrow that surrounds it circularly so that the object moves like this, something like this. So the same thing for the x-axis. But okay, now let us talk about how we rotate an object in 3D viewport. To rotate an object along any axis, you can just click on the axis color as visually shown here. To rotate it along the y-axis, you can click on this green, um, this green color, and when you rotate, it rotates along the y-axis. The same thing for the blue line, the blue circle line, it rotates it along the z-axis, and the same thing for the x-axis. And don't forget, after you finish our rotation, the same concept as that applied to moving is the same thing that applied to rotating, which means that what we rotate is actually not still the main rotation. So this is not uh, where our object is rotated to, which means we've not applied the rotation, and which means that when you are using, let's say, you've exported the model, your game engine or game library is going to realize that we've rotated the object, and that this is not the main rotation. This is not where it is at default. And to set that at default, we do the same thing that we do for the move tool. You can click on Ctrl A. Instead of the location this time, you're going to click on rotation. So when you click on this, this becomes the main rotation. So this means that our object is now at its default rotation. So this means that it's like we haven't rotated it at all. So okay, so now the actual rotation of our torus is as 0, 0, 0 for the x, the y, and the z. But um, let us see that we don't want that. We can easily just use our Ctrl Z to undo our operation. But for now, I want to talk about how to rotate an object without using these the red lines, the red circle, or the blue or the green. You can notice this white outline in our gizmo. We use it to rotate. It's going to rotate along the V, and this particular rotation might be useful sometimes, but we also even have a better one, and that's to rotate along all the directions. Well, if you think about rotation, we can actually like rotate. We can actually rotate in the x y only, or uh, rotating along y z only. But we can rotate all around by clicking this little light gray white in the center of the gizmo. If we click on it, we can rotate around. We can rotate on all the axes. And if you are quite if you quite love your rotation, you can just leave it as it is. And now let us move on to scaling. And to do that, first of all, we are going to delete our torus, and we are going to add a cube. And don't forget the shortcut that we use for deleting an object is ESP, or we can just use the width key. And now to add an object, don't forget we are going to use Shift A and go under the mesh, and we are going to select the cube. And now we have the cube in our 3D viewport. And to scale, we are going to use the scale tool. Want to spice up your listening? And to scale the object along the z-axis, you can just click and drag the axis up and down to scale it up and down along the z-axis. The same thing for the x-axis. Don't forget the x-axis is the red line. So to scale it along the x-axis and to scale it along the y-axis, and if you want to scale it along the s and z, like the same thing that works for the move also works for scaling. So let's say I want to avoid scaling it along the y-axis. I can just click on this and it's going to avoid the y-axis when I scale. I just scale it down back. So the same thing for the x. If I want to disable the x-axis, I want to scale it along the y-axis and the z-axis. I can just click on this green box and this red box actually. Sorry, and the same thing for the z-axis using this z box. And let's say you want to scale it everything relatively. You want to scale them all together. So, for example, let's say I'll just quickly delete it. And let's say we have a cube. We don't want to scale just one side. We want to scale everything up. We can just use this green white outline over here, and when you click and drag, you can see that we are scaling it relatively on all sides. So when you are quite satisfied with your scale, you can just leave the object. And don't forget, we need to apply the scale using the control A. You can just click on scale, and you can see that when you click on this control A, this apply menu has this all transforms, and that's if you want to apply the location, the rotation, and the scale. You can just click on this all transforms. Let's say you transform your object, and that means you've scaled it, you've rotated it, or you've changed its position. You can just click on this all transforms to apply those transformations. And let's say you want to apply those transformations to only the rotation and the scale. You just click on this, and you can just leave all these settings as it is. You can leave all these buttons. We might explain it in the future, but you will really need all these functionalities. So for now, that's it about the move and the rotate and the scale. Those three makes up the transformation. But let's say you want the gizmos for rotating and scaling at the same time, or you want the gizmo for all the transformation at the same time. You are going to use the transform tool over here. It combines the rotation, the scale, and the move tool. For the move, no, you can already saw our gizmo. For the move, you can move around. I've explained this earlier. For rotation, we have the rotation gizmo that I've explained earlier, and the same thing for scaling. Okay, and that's it for the translate tool. We've already covered the move, the rotate tool, and the scale tool, and the transform tool. And now I'm going to delete our cube, and we're going to talk about how to add colors to objects. But before that, I want to explain something. Just and that's how we select objects in the 3D viewport. There are many different ways you can select objects in 3D viewport, but the best way is just to go over the selection tools that we have over here. And you can see we have the tweak, we have the select box, we have the select circle, we have the select lasso. So we go over this one by one. the default is the select box. So this is what we have by default. If you want to select an object, you just click on the object like this, and let's say we have for example, let's say we have multiple objects in our scene, and let's say I want to select this monkey. Okay, this I haven't discussed about this model, which is not exactly a primitive, because it's more of a complete model on its own. But I will explain why we have this model soon. So let's say I want to select the cube. I can just click on the cube, and now I've selected the cube. But let's say I want to select both the cube and the monkey. I will select any object first, and if I want to add to my selection, I'm going to hold down shift and I'm going to click that selection. Now I've selected both the cube and the monkey, and when we perform translation, you can see that the translation uh, performs the operation on both the cube and the monkey. And so we are actually going to talk about selection very soon. So let's talk about let's talk about selection. And we have the select box, but first of all, let us talk about the tweak. The tweak works like the select box, but there are some differences, and the difference is that in tweak select, you can just select an object, but immediately after selecting the object, you can perform the move operation. So I can just move this Susan. um yeah, the name of the monkey is actually Susan. So okay, sorry, the name of the monkey is Suzanne. So let's say we want to move the monkey. After selecting this using this tweak select, when I select this Suzanne, I can just click and drag around, and now I'm performing the move operation on the object. I'm moving the object along the 3D viewport. And let's say I want to move the cube, the same thing. And now let's talk about the select box. That's for the select tweak select. For the select box, you can select an object using left clicking. The same thing for the tweak select, but we can now perform what is known as box selection. So to perform box selection, you can just drag anywhere and just hold your left click and drag in the 3D viewport, and any object within the box or the rectangle that you are creating is going to get selected. Now we see that we've also select the lamp, because when we I'll explain about the lamp and the camera very soon. So this is the lamp and this is the camera. But now when I select using box select, since the lamp is also inside the box, it gets selected. So now we selected 3 objects. Also, I think this is a good time to explain about active selection. So let's talk about active selection. Okay, let's deselect everything. You can deselect everything using by left clicking anywhere in the 3D viewport. And if I select using left click, this monkey become the active selection. If I select using if I shift select the cube becomes the active selection. But you might ask, how do we know the active selection? The active selection is the last object you selected. In this case, that's the cube. But usually we have this yellow outline on the active selection as compared to other selections. But you might notice, if we use the select box tool, we don't have okay, let me select everything. If you select using the select box, we don't have the active selection. That's because okay, I'm getting where the vect. Okay, let's say we haven't select any of these at all, and we use the box selection. We're actually not going to get any active selection. That's because Blender doesn't know what we select last, because we select it in a batch. We select everything all together at once. So what we can do is we can use the same shift and select to make a selection into an active selection if the selection is not active before. If it's active before, what is going to happen is it's going to get deselected. If I click it, you can see that our cube is no longer selected, and that's it for selection using shift. And if I select it and hold down shift, it's going to become if it's not the active, it's going to become the active selection, and if it's the active, it's going to become unselected. So let's leave everything as it is. We are going to talk about the select circle, and this is actually very very tricky, because to understand the select circle very well, um, um, we need to talk about the object origin and object origin. Okay, let's say I want to select this the Suzanne, and to select Suzanne, I need to ensure that my circle, this little visual circle for which is actually the helper that to help you notice that anything that is object origin is within this circle is going to get selected. You can change the radius over here, but I will talk about this uh, this tool option in the future. But for now, you can easily change the radius of the circle over here, and when I click the monkey, it gets selected. But notice this little dot in the monkey. This little dots, I don't know if you saw it, but if you are following along, you will notice the little dots in the center of the monkey. That's our object origin. That's the monkey object origin. And let's reduce the radius to maybe 5, and if I click anywhere near the object origin, it's going to get selected. Don't forget, if I click around an object but not the object origin, the circle select won't work. It won't select the object. So you need to select we need to select the Suzanne by just ensuring that the our the circle uh, uh, is within the Suzanne object origin, and that's when uh, the Suzanne is going to get selected. And the same thing for the cube. I think the origin of the cube is along the center. Yes, yes, yes. So we can just increase the radius if you don't want to. If you are wondering why the cube is not being selected when you drag around the left side or right side of your top and bottom of the cube, that's because the radius, the circle needs to be within the object origin before the object gets selected. And yeah, I think that's it. And that's it for the circle select. And we are also going to talk about the lasso select. And the way I'm selecting more than uh, the way I'm selecting the tweak select or any select under this toolbar is by holding down the left mouse button and just scrolling down. And let's go to select lasso. And the way lasso select works is that it's very similar to if you are using other programs whereby we can select some portion of our 2D graphics or 2D image using lasso. And the way it works is that you can just left click and can start drawing our lasso, and any object within what you are drawing will get selected. And now we selected the cube. You can also select more than one object using the lasso select. And don't forget, since we don't have uh, any last object selected, there's no active selection. You might have noticed I keep mentioning active selection, active selection. We will make use of active selection later. We'll talk about more about active selection later. But for now, just know that sometimes active selection is very important. So you can just shift and left click to make whatever you want to make your active selection. So that's all about the select tools. We have more select tools that we talk about in the future. uh, when we talk about the headers in the future. And for now, we will talk about the shortcuts for all the tools that we've explained, and that's the move, the rotate, and the scale tool. And so let's first talk about the shortcut for the move tools. um okay, before we move from lasso select, I need to point out that it works the same with the circle select, which means the object origin matters a lot when you are selecting your objects. So that's just something to keep in mind. And I just leave it as select box. um so first of all, let's talk about how we can move using this a shortcut key. So we don't want to use this gizmo anymore. We want to be able to use a shortcut key. And I just delete all of this, and we're going to add our torus. Don't forget shift A for adding object. We talk about other objects in the future, like the curve, the surface, the metal balls, but for now we are talking about the mesh. So we can just add our torus again. And you can give it a flat shading and a smooth shading if you want. And now what we are going to do is we want to talk about the shortcut for performing move, how we move an object along an axis. Let us talk about that first. So you can see that I'm using the gizmos now, but what if we don't want to use the gizmos? The way we do that is we are going to use the shortcut of G, and after we press the G, we are going to immediately press the axis that we want to move the object around. Let's say we want to move the object around x-axis. After I press G, I'm going to click on X, and now I can move the object along the x-axis. And let's say I change my mind and I don't want to move the object along the x-axis anymore. I want to move it along the y. I can easily change it directly from here. And after you are done with the positioning of your object, you can just left click, and now our object is positioned along this position in the y-axis. So the same thing for the z-axis. You can just click G and Z, and we can move the object around the z-axis. And there is a very tricky shortcut for moving the object along an axis, and that's to press G, and you're going to hold down the middle mouse button, and you're going to drag along the axis that you want to move the object. And when you saw this little hint, which is the green axis, which is the green axis is I highlighted. You can just release the middle mouse button. If you want to move along the y-axis, you can click on middle mouse and drag along the y-axis. When it's highlighted, you can just release the middle mouse, and the same thing for the x-axis. Move your middle mouse around the x-axis as if you want to move the object along the z-axis, and you're going to release the middle mouse button, and now we can move our objects as usual. And the same thing for the y-axis. When it's highlighted, you can just let go, and it's going to snap the object along the y-axis. And the same thing for the z-axis. And for all the shortcuts, if you realize you don't want to move the object, yes, let's say you've pressed D and Z and you don't want to move the object along the Z axis, or you don't want to move the object at all, you can just cancel the operation by right clicking or by pressing ESC in your keyboard, and the operation will get cancelled. And the same thing for when we move around like this, and that's it for uh, moving objects along particular axis. But let's say we want to move an object, but we want to be able to use these box features that just disabled a particular axis, which for the red box, we just disable the x-axis, which allows us to move the object along the z and the y-axis. And so let's say we want to be able to use this feature also. And how are we going to be able to do that? The same shortcut key, which is the G. You can think of the G as for grabbing the object. So when we click on G, instead of pressing X or Y or Z, you are going to shift, and the next uh, we are going to click the axis that we want to disable. Let's say we only want to enable the Z and the Y axis, so we are going to shift X. Okay, let me start again. We are going to press on G and shift X, and now our object can only move along the Z and the Y axis. And the same thing for the Y axis. Shift Y, that's going to lock the object from moving around the Y axis, so our object cannot move around the Y axis. And the same thing for the Z. And that's the same functionality we get with the box that I've explained earlier, this little icon that I've explained earlier. And We've also explained about this circle. We can just click on it and just drag anywhere. But how do we get that functionality and using the shortcut key? And the way we do that is by just pressing G. When we press G, we can move the object around in the view, and now we can move it along the X, Y, and the Z axis simultaneously. And that's for the shortcut key for the move tools. And before, okay, let's just move to the rotate tool. And okay, before we move to the rotate tool, sorry for that. And there is a quick shortcut that I actually want to explain. And we've discussed how we can move object along an axis using the mid mouse button. But let's talk about how we can also disable a particular axis using the middle mouse button, and that's by holding down shift. And you can use the same left click that we are using before, and whatever axis we drag our mouses will get disabled. And that's, if you notice, that the particular axis that we are dragging our middle mouse to become on not highlighted, and the other axis are highlighted. And that's because that particular axis is disabled and our object cannot move along that axis anymore. And that's it for the middle mouse. That's how we use the middle mouse along with the G and the shift key. And now let us move on to the rotate. You don't have to enable the tool in the toolbar. You just leave it as this. And the shortcut key can work anywhere, so I can still use the G shortcut. So for the rotate tool, don't forget you can rotate an object along the X axis, along the Y, and along the Z axis. But how we do that in okay, how we do that using the shortcut key is by using the R shortcut. And let's say we want to move, we want to rotate along the X axis. We are going to, immediately after pressing R, we are going to press the X key, and now we can rotate the object along the X axis. The same thing for the Y axis, R and Y, and the same thing for the Z axis, R and Z. And I want to rotate the object along the X axis. And apart from applying this particular rotation, we can reset it back to its original rotation. Don't forget, I've explained this in for the move tools, so it also works for the rotate tool, which I believe I've explained. And let's say we want to rotate freely. Don't forget, rotate tool doesn't have rotating in particular axis, like and disabled the two axes. You don't have something like that with the rotate tool, because particularly it won't make any sense. So if you want to rotate freely, you can use the R and just drag our mouse around, and now we can rotate the object along the 3D viewport. And that's a quick way of rotating. And in rotating, I think we also have the middle mouse functionality, whereby you can just drag and get locked. along the axis that gets highlighted, and that's it for the rotate tool. And next up we have the scale, and the shortcut for scaling is okay, with the same thing with the scale tool. If we want to clear our scale, don't forget that's only if we haven't applied the scale. We can use the Alt S to clear our scale. And to scale an object along an axis, we are going to use the S for scaling, and the particular axis. Let's say we want to scale the object along the Z axis, SZ, that scales the object along the Z axis. And let's say we want to scale the object along the Y axis, S and Y scales the object along the Y axis, and the same thing for the X axis. And that's it for the scaling object. And the middle mouse also works for this, and that's it for scaling. But let's say you want to scale in all directions at once, so you use X, and when you scale, it scales relatively in all directions, and it scales proportionally. And it might also be noticed that let's say you want to scale in just the let's say we want to scale in just the X and Y, we want to disable the Z. It works just like the move tool, and that's by pressing S, and we're going to shift the axis that we don't want to scale. Let's say it's the Z axis, and now we can scale the object along both the X and the Y axis. And the same thing for all other axes. Just shift with the axis name, and the axis will not, our object will not scale in that axis. And that's it for the scale tool, and that's it for the transform, which is the move, the rotate, and the scale tool. And don't forget the shortcut that we use for moving, that's the G, and with this relatively some other shortcuts depending on what you want to do with the move tool. And for rotate, we have the R for rotating, and for scaling, we have the S for scaling. And so before we end this section of the tutorial, actually, for selection, we also have shortcuts. First of all, let us talk about the shortcut uh, for cycling through all these tools over here. Let's say we have the select box. Know that what is next with the select box is the select circle, and we don't want to come over here and just clicking on select circle. And we can cycle through all the tools under the select tools over here by using the W short key. And now we have the select circle. Let's say we don't want the select circle, we have the select lasso, and we're going to have the tweak select, and we're going to have the select box. And so it cycles. We can cycle through the tools that are under this using the W key. But let's say we are not in we don't want to be cycling through all those tools, but we want those tools using a shortcut key. Blender give us the access to the shortcut key for the select box and the select circle and the select lasso. You really really be using the tweak select. You are not even going to be using it most of the time in your project, because for moving an object you can easily use the move tool instead of using the tweak that just give us the ability to move the object around. And that might even cause unwanted movement of an object in a more complex project, and we don't want that. So let's just leave it at quick select. And let's say we want to access the select box, uh, okay, the box select functionality. And the way we can do that is by using the shortcut key of B. And now we can uh, use the select box functionality, and any object within our box will get selected. And don't forget, this works differently from the circle select and the lasso select, which means that this one doesn't, the box select doesn't take into account the object origin, but the circle and the lasso select do. And so to access the box select I've explained, you can just click on B, and you can drag our mouse around by left clicking and dragging. And what happens is that when we left click, when we release our left click, any object within that box will get selected. And that's it for the box select. And we also have the circle select, and to use the circle select tool, we use the C shortcut key. And now um, we can select our objects, and you can also increase this circle. I think we call it yeah, I think we call it a circle of influence or something like that. But this circle that indicate uh, the circle select tools, you can increase it using the middle mouse by scrolling up or scrolling down. And that is for the circle tool. You can enable it using the C shortcut key. But notice that whenever you are using shortcuts, we can't move around the 3D viewport anymore, and we can't do anything anymore. So except on that tool, that we can perform uh, an operation, so we can't move along around the 3D viewport. And I also want to explain something very important with the select, the circle select, and that's it. That's for how we can deselect. For the box select, we can just hold down shift, and whatever you box select is going to get deselected. For the circle select, you can just middle mouse, and whatever is object origin is within your circle, that's going to get deselected. And let's move on to the last, which is the lasso select tool. And to access that, we use the L key. And now we have the uh, okay, I think the shortcut has been removed um for recent version of Blender. I don't think it's the L2 anymore. Yeah, it's not. And to access its functionality, or to check maybe its new shortcut, you can just use the space bar to search for the functionality. I'm going to search for we're going to search for lasso select, and we are not getting any shortcut over here. Let's search for the circle select, and we know that the shortcut for it is C. And for the box select, the shortcut for it that should be B, even though we are not showing here, because it's the default. So the default selection, you can just drag our left mouse. But for lasso select, we don't have any shortcut for it yet. But there is a way you can use the lasso select in as very quick as possible, and that's by using quick favorite. And to access functionalities in your quick favorite, because you are going to be adding functionalities there. You can use the quick Q shortcut, but now we don't have any functionality in our quick favorite. And to add any functionality to our quick favorite, you can just uh, we can right click the functionality, and we can use this assign to add to quick favorite uh, function. And now when we use the shortcut key of Q, which is the quick favorite shortcut key, we're going to get this lasso select. And now we should have the functionalities of the lasso select tool. And that's how you can also add uh, more uh, more functions to your more operations to your quick favorite if you want. And so that's all about it. And now we'll talk about the uh, what all these icons are that are in the right side of the viewport are doing. And we have this gizmo, and this is for if you left click anywhere around the circle but not on a particular axis, it performs the same option as middle mouse and dragging. And we can see that we can use this to fill our 3D viewport. But we also have the snapping. Let's say we want to snap on the right view. We can just use we can also use this gizmo over here. Let's say we want to snap to the front, to the back, and so on. This is the top. And let's say we want to snap to the bottom, the top. And you can see that all these axes, there are two axes, is locking the third axis, and we are not able to see the third axis. That's because from the viewpoint that we are viewing the object. So we are viewing this object in the left. So we are looking it at the leftmost of the object, and that's why we can't see the x-axis. And apart from using this feature, you can easily use the keyboard shortcut. And the shortcut for it is the one that's for the front view, 3 for the right view. You want to view object from the right, and 7 for the top view. And let's say we want the opposite of the front, which is the back. We use control and the shortcut which is 1 for the back, 1 for the front, control 1 for the back, 3 for the right, control 3 for the left, and 7 for the top, and control 7 for the bottom. And we can just drag around to snap out of that particular view. And using all these front view, left view, they are very, very important when you are modeling your object, and you want to be able to just model from particular axis, and you want to be able to view our object from that axis. This function is very, very important. And we also have more features over here. This is the same thing for with this scroll, the middle mouse scroll button. And you can just click on it and drag around, and we are going to zoom in and out of the 3D viewport. Apart from the scroll, you can also use the control, and you can drag around. So that's three different ways to zoom in and out of the 3D viewport. Don't forget, this is the 3D viewport. And when you want to move around which works the same thing, which we called panning. And when we want to pan around, don't forget we use the shift and the middle mouse, but we can also use this hand icon over here to move around, to move the whole viewport to pan around. And let's say we've molded our whatever we want to model, and we want to be able to view what we've modeled from the camera perspective. You can click on this camera icon, and that's what we've modeled. And this works the same. You can just drag around to snap out of the camera view. This is the same thing as pressing 0 on your numpad. And if you press 0 on your numpad and it doesn't work, don't forget you have to enable. Most importantly, um if you are using if you are using a laptop and your keyboard doesn't have a numpad, uh you can click on emulate numpad over here. Don't forget the numpad are not the keys that are in the in that are in the bottom of the F1, F2. Those are not the numpad. If you are using a laptop, those are not the numpad actually. You can click on this emulate numpad, which makes those numbers the numpad. We have two numbers. If you are using the if you are using more advanced keyboards or a desktop keyboard, so make sure you have this. So we want to make sure we have this emulate numpad enabled. If it's not enabled by default, and now when you use the 1, 3 and the 7 and the 0, it should work. The 0 is for camera view, and to snap out of it, you just click on 0 again. And now I think it's a good time to talk about how we move the camera around. There are many different ways that we will talk about in the future, but for now we can move the camera around by first of all going to the camera view. And now we can easily use the G to move the camera around, but this is actually not very good. To rotate, we can use the R, and we don't want to be able to use this feature. We don't want this actually. And what you're going to do is I'm going to talk about how we can lock the camera to view, so that we can move along the viewport as we used to move, but instead of moving the viewport, we're actually moving the camera. And to do that, we're going to talk about the sidebar. The sidebar is over here. You can just yeah, you can just click on this little arrow icon over here, and the sidebar got refilled. And let's say you don't want to be able to just come over here, you can just use the N shortcut key, and we have this sidebar. Well, we already saw that we can change the location, which we are doing with the move tool, using over here by just left clicking and dragging. We can just change the location, and do the same thing with the rotation, and uh, and so on. But this is not what we will talk about. We will talk about this in the futures. But here we can go to the view. I'm going to say that we can lock the camera to the view. And now when you move around the viewport, let's disable this. When we move around the viewport, actually we are moving the camera, and Just make sure that you place the object in the center, and I think that's very good. But to access the same feature without going over to the view tab over here, don't forget, by default you are at the item tab. Go to the view tab and click on camera to viewport, lock camera to viewport. To access this same functionality, you can click on this little lock icon over here. When it is not logged, that means our camera is not logged to view. And but let's say we enabled it and it's locked like this. Now our camera is logged to the view, to the viewport, and now we can move around like we will if we've gone to the sidebar to enable lock camera to view. And so now what you are going to do is we are going to build a very simple and basic project. And first of all, let us delete this torus. And actually, let's just move around. So now we are going to be adding uh, all mesh objects, and we are going to be positioning them. And if you want to get a better view of how we are positioning them, you can just use sorry, you can just use the 3 numpad to snap to the right orthographic. And now let us move this a bit. And now we are going to add the cube. Let's move it all up, and let's move it to the left a bit. I think like that. I think that's good. You can select them. Okay, let's change to box select. Actually, you can select them, and we can just move them around. And now let's add a circle. Okay, actually the circle won't get notice at all, so it's very useless. But to enable the circle to 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 be able to fill the circle, you can just follow these steps quickly. I'll explain it in the future. With the circle selected, we can tab into, okay, I'm not going to explain this. Press tab, and we are in what you call the edit mode, but I'm not going to explain this. After you are here, make sure that everything is selected. By everything, if you are not getting if you are getting this when you tab into the edit mode, press A to select everything, and press F. And as I've said, I will not explain this, and press tab back. So we have our circle, and we can view it visually. And also, let's move on. We have the UV sphere, and I think that's good. I think that's okay. And we have the icosphere, we have the cylinder, and we have the cone, and lastly we have the torus. We are not going to be adding the monkey as our primitives, and these are all the uh, the primitives that we have in Blender. And so let's just make sure that our camera view is capturing all of it. And I think this is good. Make sure you have this enabled over here. So now we have these screenshots of our object, but we don't have it as an image yet. And this is actually not how things are going to look when we render it as an image. Well, that's because we have different feedport shading mode, and this is just the solid shading. And over here we can change it from, we have four. We have the wireframe that just shows the object's wireframe. I'll explain about all this in the future tutorials when we explain about vertices, edges and faces. And we have the solid, which is what we've been working on uh, since we've started the tutorial. And we have the material preview, and the material preview let us preview our material. For now, we've not assigned any material to our object, so they are using this white material. So all their colors are white, and this basic material. And we have I think this is the uh, rendered viewport shading. And in the rendered, we can the what we are looking at is exactly how the object will be shown when we render it as an image. And you can see that now our light is actually affecting the object, and we can move the light around just as we can move any object around in the 3D viewport. Let's just position it up over here, and we want to change the intensity of the light. So with the light selected, we have this property uh, we have these property editors over here, and we can use it uh, if you are not seeing this light bulb tab over here. Ensure that uh, maybe your screen is very small and you can't see this light bulb directly. You can move up and down with the middle mouse and drag. You can move up and down um, to get to this light bulb over here. When you click on it, we got this light over here. You can preview your light with the preview tab over here. I can scroll up and down with this scroll bar, or with the middle mouse. So what we want to do is we want to change its power to, I think, let's just change it to maybe 3000. Okay, that is very good. But now we want another light at the front, so we can shift D to duplicate any object, and let's just place it as at the front. And we're going to reduce the power to maybe 500. And I think that looks cool. I think that looks cool. And we can move the light around, and when we realize maybe this is good enough, we just leave it as it is. But I like changing the front light to some other color. I think red will be cool. Yeah, I think that's cool. And now this is how the image is going to be when we rendered it. If you are not getting the exact image position of the light that I am, uh, I will talk more about lighting in the future, because this is actually not the proper way of lightening our scene. So now to render this as an image, we are going to use the F12 shortcut key, or we can go under the render button over here, and we are going to click on this render image over here, and we are going to wait for some minutes. And this is the output of what we are doing. And before we end this topic, I actually want to talk about how we can add color to our objects. So let's say we select this object, but we don't want it to be white, we want different colors. And the same thing, we are going to go under the properties tab, and if you scroll down, we are going to saw this little ball icon. When you click on it, we get this material. uh, Click on it and we are taken to this tab. And the way we add colors to an object in 3D is way different from 2D. If you work with mostly with 2D, and that's because we use something called material in 3D. And so to add the material to this object, just click on new, and this material is added to this object. To change its color, we can just go over the base color and we can change it to any color we want. You can see that the color got changed visually in the 3D view. But the same thing for all the objects. Okay, let's talk about assigning materials to our objects. And as I've discussed earlier, we can just click on the object and we can click on new to add the material. Now we are going to change its base color, and you can see that the color of our plane got changed. And the same thing for the cube, and the same thing for the circle. And we're just going to be adding some random materials to the objects. And now let's say we want the cylinder and the UV sphere to share the material. The material, think of it like a data, so it can be shared between the UV sphere and the cylinder. And to share the material, we can click on this browse material button over here, and we are going to select the material of the UV sphere, which is material 4. You can easily rename the material by clicking on the material name over here and giving it an appropriate name, but we are not going to talk about it for now. And now both the cylinder and the UV sphere are sharing a material. Now if we change the material to something else, you can see that both the cylinder and the UV sphere got changed. And let's give this some unique material, the light blue. And this let's give it the same material as this. And now we can finally render our image. Don't forget to do that, we are going to use the F12 key, or you can go under the render tab over here and click on render image. You can also zoom in and out, because zooming in and out works the same with all editors. So now to save the image, you can go under the image and save, or we can use Alt S to save our image. And let's say we want to save the main Blender file. The Blender file use the file extension of .blend, and to do that we go under the file and save, or use the shortcut key, which is Ctrl S, and that's for saving in Blender. And I hope you've actually enjoyed this tutorial. And in the future tutorial we will talk about the headers, we talk more about the editors and what they meant, we talk about the workspace workflow, and we're also going to have some dedicated chapters to talk about the edit tools in Blender, and we are going to model some basic shapes and so on. And that's it for the tutorials. Thanks so much for joining me, and if you gain a thing or two, leave a like, a comment, or subscribe for more Blender tutorials in the future. And if you have any very generous, you can support us on our Patreon, or buy us a cup of coffee. And thanks so much for joining us, and bye.